You know what, Jamie? Let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We gotta go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Morning After Recap Hit and Hustle show brought to you by irisportsdaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong. How is everybody doing? Notre Dame beats Central Michigan 41-17 in a game that was unsatisfying, I think, for a lot of people to begin. And then as Notre Dame picked it up in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter, everyone kind of their nerves were quelled a little bit. Wasn't so nervy to end the game, but we're going to talk about that. And obviously, the big game next week. This is what everyone's been looking to, waiting for. Game against Ohio State. That they're going to come in undefeated. Notre Dame's coming in undefeated. It's going to be a top 10 matchup, and that's what everyone wanted, right? That's what Notre Dame fans wanted. That's probably what Ohio State fans wanted. It's this is why we're so excited about college football in general. Matchups like this, it's going to be very exciting. So we're going to preview all those things, and whatever the chat wants to bring up today, we're going to talk about those things. CFB Hertz is here. He woke up just in time. Robert Hallecky says, "Welcome to Seg City." Yes, everyone loves my my segues. Adam Ziliak says, "Good morning," and good morning to you, Adam, and everyone else who is tuning in. So, if you are tuning in for the first time on this show, and you like what you hear, please subscribe to the show. Please hit the like button. Please hit the notification bell so you know when it is we are going live. And if you want to catch, if it's too early for you, right, and you don't want to catch the YouTube version of this, links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, before we get going, I just want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, ESQ Clothing. And if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, ESQ has created the world's first bamboo dress shirt, crafted from high-quality bamboo fabric. It's the softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. It's not only more sustainable than cotton, also feels cooler, has stretch, is odor and wrinkle resistant, and even machine washable. You've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo shirt, and it's the perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading for a night out. Use ISD15 and get 15% off all online items. That's ISD15 for 15% off all online items. All right, everybody, let's get into it. Michael Park says, "Rise and shine like the Golden Dome." Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for spending your morning with me. Okay, let's get into it. I think we should consider what it is that we aren't happy with, right? A lot of it, it was defensively, and what we described it as sloppy yesterday on our instant reaction show, me and Jamie. And we saw a good amount of that, right? Some missed tackles, especially early. They finished the game with 10 per PFF, which they actually missed more tackles against Tennessee State. Obviously, it didn't come across that way, and I think a lot of it was, I think the defense came under the spotlight a little bit just because the offense wasn't scoring on every possession. It was 21-7 late into the second quarter. The offense had a couple of empty possessions there, which is fairly rare for Notre Dame. At home and against a caliber of defense that we saw yesterday. Central Michigan's not the greatest defense in the world, and Notre Dame wasn't putting up points. And so what easily could have been a 28-7 game, a 35-7 game, it was sitting there at 21-7, and Central Michigan has that long drive to make it 21-14 at halftime. And I think, then you start to get that feeling of, I don't even know if they're going to blow it. It's just kind of annoying. And you're into that point where you start to say, well, what if Notre Dame doesn't score to start the second half? What if they fumble, right? And we can all recount situations where they've blown games against MAC teams, right? Suddenly you're not converting on your opportunities, and then they have the ball and they continue to gain first downs on like 3rd and 8s and little crossing routes or little quarterback runs or penalties or whatever the case may be on that front. And now you're starting to get nervous and you're starting to say, well, I mean, we've seen this before. And I think one thing we're learning is, with Sam Hartman, it can be it's a little bit less nervy, right? He, Notre Dame goes down and scores. Notre Dame gets a 3 and out, goes down and scores on the long touchdown pass to, excuse me, to Tobias Merriweather, and which I put a breakdown of that play up on Twitter just before I started recording, because it's literally the same route combination that Notre Dame missed Jaden Thomas on last week that I noted. It's like Notre Dame's got to hit this play. And, they added a wrinkle they added Jeremiah Love out of the backfield. They added Holden Stays on a route, which they didn't do last week. But the outside receiver runs a deep curl. Slot receiver runs a little crossing route or a deep drag. And Tobias Murray runs go. They hit it. They score a touchdown. And it's 7-0. You feel like the route is on. And then Central Michigan goes down and scores. And it's like, oh, boy, like that was unexpected. Notre Dame goes down and scores right again. So I think the Sam Hartman experience is a little bit different than what we've seen, which certainly feels nice. Feels nice. Adam Ziliak says the game was ugly, but in the past, when they played ugly games, the final score would not be 41-17, much closer or loss. Right, and we've seen that. Right, that's borne out. Right, obviously they lost to Marshall. The Toledo game was obviously very close. We've seen them play close to Ball State and teams of that nature. So, it's a little bit different experience this time around, and that feels good. Bob Duato says, forgot to make cold brew last night, so I hustled in the rain to the coffee shop, and I'm hitting a cinnamon roll. Thanks for being here, Bob. Really appreciate that. Hustle in the rain, hitting and hustling in the rain and everything. So thanks for being on the show. Let's see. Mike in Oklahoma. Greg, we've got to get some help in the middle of the line on defense. And I think they need to the tackle for loss numbers. I was noting that on Twitter before we started this morning. They're 118th in tackles for loss per game, right? They're 75th in total tackles for loss, but they've played an extra game than a lot of people. So you look at the per game numbers, you're sitting there at 118th. There's 132 teams in FBS football. That's not good. Like they need to bump those up. That's like it's like Matthew McConaughey said in Wolf of Wall Street. Hey, those are rookie numbers. We got to bump those numbers up, right? Notre Dame has to bump those up. Riley Mills has 1 tackle for loss this year. He's played 144 snaps. Howard Cross has 1 tackle for loss. He's played 156 snaps. It's a little misleading for Howard Cross because he has been disruptive. He has been shooting into the backfield. He has been gaining penetration. So Howard Cross, that's a little bit harsh on him. But I don't think we've really seen it from Riley Mills. Jordan Botelho has 1 tackle for loss this year. Like that has to get better. You have to create havoc on defense, and you have to, we talked about explosives on offense, how you need those to beat the teams that you want to beat, right? To beat Ohio State, they're going to have explosives next week. It just has to happen. And to beat Ohio State, they're going to have to get them behind the chains. They're going to have to create havoc. They're going to have to create tackles for loss and lost yardage and negative plays for the offense. And that's something that really needs to improve. So that's a good observation by Mike in Oklahoma. Jason Tremblay says something similar. D-line better step up as OSU is going to establish the run game, and if successful, make us stack the box. And that puts a lot of pressure on our cornerbacks in one-on-one, and Jason's kind of taking the next step. Like if we have to drop safeties and we have to put more people, then that leaves Notre Dame vulnerable to obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate and Julian Fleming and on and on and on, all the guys that they can throw out there. So yeah, that's a good point by Jason. Like it's important that Notre Dame wins up front. And I noted on the show yesterday with Jamie, I didn't like when when Central Michigan spread out Notre Dame and they were able to run with light boxes in that situation where Notre Dame was forced to match on the outside and not there. You have even numbers you have even numbers as far as in the box, but Central Michigan was successful in that area, and that's something that Ohio State can do. That's 100% something that USC can do. So that's pretty concerning for me, right? In terms of what are you going to do against the better teams? So that's something to consider. So these are good points made by people in the chat already. Brian Haney says, "What's up, Greg? The crazy thing is that by looking at stats yesterday in the other games, we are crushing it on offense. Tell me why I keep feeling once we see OSU, we will get shut down. It's not about getting shut down. Mike in Oklahoma said, kind of responded like OSU is not shutting us down. I think that's true, but it does. Michael Bryan, friend of mine, someone, a very good person to follow on Twitter. He does really good stats for 18 Stripes. It feels like this could be a Georgia 2017, Georgia 2019 type situation, maybe even Michigan 2018, where there's just not the ease in moving the ball. Because look, I think a lot of people see Ohio State as vulnerable because of new quarterback, and they didn't look great against Indiana on offensive side of the ball, only put up 23 points. And so I think people see them as being a vulnerable opponent or a vulnerable version of themselves. But in their first 3 games, like, tell me where you see the weakness on defense. Like, tell me where there's evidence that they can be gotten on defense, right? That's going to be a very good defense, if not elite defense. Certainly better than NC State, right? And Notre Dame obviously ended up putting up 45 points on NC State. But, OSU is a different animal. How are they going to respond to, their corners and their safeties and their size and their physicality? They just don't have a lot of weaknesses out there, right? You just don't see it. So they sustain the efficiency that they've shown? If they can, then obviously I love Notre Dame to win the game. Look, they don't. Ohio State doesn't look vulnerable on that side of the ball, so that's something that needs to be. I don't even want to say addressed. It's just like that's a huge part of the game. It's a huge part of the game if Notre Dame is able to, move the ball consistently on the ground. I mean, look, when the Clemson game last year, when the first couple drives, you knew, hey, Notre Dame's got something. Notre Dame has something in this running game. If Notre Dame comes out early and starts running the ball, like, that bodes very well. That bodes very, very well for, what Notre Dame can do offensively in the game. Because if Notre Dame can run the ball, that sets up everything else. Travis, 88 cards. The penalties need to be addressed. Yes, we've won the last 2 games, but you can't be trending poorly in that direction with teams we have coming up. Absolutely. Some of the penalties we don't like, but in terms of the calls, but others are just they need to go away. The hold and stays holding penalty made me so upset. Like, didn't need to happen. Get your hands out of there. You don't need to be tugging the jersey. The Riley Mills late hit got to go away. Just, you can't have that. You're senior on this defense. You can't take 3 steps and throw the quarterback to the ground or shove him to the ground. You can't do it. You just can't. And so that needs to get cleaned up. I didn't think the penalty on Mickey was a good call. It just wasn't. It's a phantom, basically. And I just think it's unfortunate that Notre Dame's getting called for phantom penalties while Rico Flores is getting pulled, and everyone sees it and everyone knows. And look, the booth is laughing at these guys. They're laughing at them. It's not me, right? Like, people say, "Oh, fans, you're complaining." I'm not complaining. The booth is laughing at them and how bad they were. So, that's bad by them. But generally speaking, the penalties, it needs to get cleaned up, as Travis says. So that's a good point by him. Andrew, Werty, Andrew Werty, JD Bertrand is Joe Smith. Please prove me wrong. I'm having BVG flashbacks. JD Bertrand didn't play in the game, so I don't know if this is a commentary on him or what this is. Please clarify. I'll answer the question if you could clarify for me. Let's see. Rajon says it's the same for Notre Dame offense. Notre Dame has to be able to run some and hit the underneath stuff to open up OSU for longer passes. Efficiency, right? Like go back and watch Ian Book in the Clemson 2020 game and the type of throws that he hit. He hit some deep crossers. He hit some like tight underneath throws. I mean, he was on it in that game. That he played a great football game. Several big time throws for him in that one. He hit the couple deep balls to Javon McKinley as well. So like, and obviously he hits the big one to Avery Davis. So like, look, Notre Dame's passing game, receivers, tight ends, everyone, they need to be ready to win in contested areas. That's just the nature of it, right? You play big time teams. You're not going to be running wide open, generally speaking, right? Maybe they have a bust every now and then, but you're not going to be doing that. You're not going to be running wide open. You're not going to be uncovered. These teams are too good. They're too good for that stuff. You got to win contested. You just have to. And it's not I say I'm thinking Notre Dame can't, but that's what has to happen. That's what games like this are, right? So, let's see. Vamos Irish talked a lot about how good the coaches coached the game last week. What's the assessment on the staff from this game? I didn't think there were I didn't think there were coaching errors. I didn't think there was a preparation problem. I didn't think that there was, I don't think the sloppiness was indicative of like the way that they prepared or their plan or anything like that. I just think there were several areas where they just need to be better. Like I just didn't think the D line was ready to play a great football game, and there needs to be consistency there. Like, look, Javonte Jean-Baptiste goes out there and plays with his hair fire, and he's creating pressures, and he's running all over the field. I mean, his effort, he's been Notre Dame. I mean, aside from Howard Cross, who I think has just consistently been good, Javonte Jean-Baptiste has been their best D lineman. And it's not even close. Like he's just been even in the run game, which was seen as it was going to be his weakness this year. It just hasn't been. And it's an effort thing. And he plays with great effort. He plays with great urgency. That's more of what they need. Like I thought the offensive line played better. I thought Rocco Spindler had a better performance. Obviously, he had the one bad play, which is like Jamie said on the show. Like he has very loud bad plays, right? Some people miss an assignment, and it just doesn't really. It looks bad on film, but as far as the game, like it just doesn't make that big a difference. Rocco Spindler had a very bad miss there. Pat Coogan got called for a hold that I didn't love, which is, unfortunate. But I thought they were pretty good. But yeah, I didn't think the coaches were poor in this game by any means. It just, and look, you could look at the preparation. I mean, if the previous commenter was talking about JD Bertrand as far as Joe Smith and being the importance that he showed to defense and getting the defense lined up and getting them just like settling them in their roles. Like I just didn't think, but here's the thing, Jack Kaiser, like he's a senior too. He's a 5th-year senior. Like he wasn't as assignment sound as he could be or as he should be. Like that has to get cleaned up by him. I mean, again, look, he's playing a different position. And look, we've all been asking for him to play the mic. I think we saw why he doesn't play the mic. Just the instincts weren't there. Just the triggering off of what you see wasn't there. So I just like that is part of what I think the value that JD Bertrand brings to the defense. And again, like they gave up 300, like they didn't give up 300 yards of offense, right? 268 yards of offense. It's not like Central Michigan was moving up and down the field all the time, right? Like they created several opportunities, several forced fumbles in this game, again, that they didn't recover, which is incredible. I mean, they're listed for 7 forced fumbles in the first 4 games, recovered 0. And I think, like the fumble at the goal line where the quarterback's trying to sneak it, like could have recovered that. Or I mean, not that they could have or someone should have and they didn't. It's like it was available to be recovered and they just didn't get their hands on it. So it's just that's annoying, right? And that you'd hope that that would change, but so yeah, that's what I would say. So again, Vamos Irish, the staff. I think the staff was fine in this game. Didn't have a problem. Let's see. Andrew says, Joe Schmidt was the key to the BVG defense in 2014. He broke his ankle against Navy and the defense collapsed. Okay, got you. So we are kind of on the same page, like as far as the importance for him in team. I would say like they didn't collapse. I would say that. Like it's not collapsing. You give up 268 yards of offense. Just because it doesn't look as clean. Just because it doesn't look as clean doesn't mean it's like a total disaster. Like I would push back on that a little bit because it wasn't. It's just like it needs to. And look, maybe with an extra week, I think the whole defense too will be more locked in to what Ohio State is doing. It wouldn't shock me if Notre Dame was working on things last week specific to Ohio State that they didn't run in this game. And, people were talking on the show about Notre Dame holding things back. I don't think it's holding things back. I think when you're working on things for a specific opponent, you're not going to use them against another opponent, right? So that's what I think is going on. It's possible. When Jamie and I wouldn't be surprised. That's just a theory of ours. So, because it was so kind of sloppy, and they weren't as on it as they normally are, as far as assignments and their urgency and that sort of thing. Michael Oklahoma says, I don't question the defense in the cover area. It's the pressure up front that is troubling. The corners are that good, but because quarterbacks have time to throw and they can't find open receivers. So the actual pressure aspect of the defense is fine. They put up a graphic yesterday. Notre Dame was 14th nationally in pressure rate, and that's good. That's very good, right? And they created pressure on 14 of 23 dropbacks yesterday. So that's doing a good job from a pressure standpoint. And this is where like the scheme comes in, right? Like Al Golden is finding a way to create pressure with players who individually can't create pressure themselves, right? With the way that he's calling the defense and his scheme and that sort of thing. So that's where I think they are being helped out by him from a pressure standpoint. I think they're doing a good job. But when you see it in the run game and they're not creating tackles for loss that way, that's when you start to like be wanting for more, right? And maybe there's a situation where the players are getting into the backfield on runs and they're just not coming up with the tackle. Like they don't have a stat for that. But just to the eye test, it just doesn't seem like. I mean, it's not even the eye test. Like there's stats to say like they're not creating tackles for loss behind the line of scrimmage on a consistent basis, and that's a problem. Shannon Neely says, if you were assigning blame for yesterday's performance, blame in quotes, what percentage would you assign to poor execution, and what percentage would you assign to looking ahead to Ohio State? I would probably assign the most blame to JD Bertrand not being in the game. From a linebacker standpoint, I think a good amount is not necessarily looking ahead. It's just you don't have the same intensity as not even the week before. Like the intensity of the week before against NC State is vastly different than it is you come home to play Central Michigan. The crowd just won't have the electricity. And the players won't have the same amount of adrenaline as you will next week. That's just human nature. There's nothing you can do about that, right? And you can't really even fake it either. Like it just It needs to be there. And again, right, like we saw some poor play and we saw some sloppy play, but Central Michigan was not a lot of bad stuff from them, like Notre Dame created a lot of opportunities. Like we would think about this so much different if the Thomas Harper hit, he hits the quarterback and he fumbles and Notre Dame picks it up and runs for a touchdown. Or Jack Kaiser hits the quarterback and he throws it backwards and there doesn't happen to be a guy standing right there to pick it up, right? Like so Notre Dame had just two opportunities where their players made plays that created opportunities for a turnover, and the ball didn't bounce to them. You know, the ball doesn't have to bounce right to the guy, right? It could bounce away. So, you know, it, maybe it was like not their sharpest performance, but I don't want to overstate how the defense played in a negative aspect too. Like they weren't a total sieve back there. So, um, yeah. Travis, 88 cards. Biggest concerns for me heading into Ohio State in our elite games is just the insane lack of pressure we put on opposing quarterbacks. Yeah, I don't think this is as much of a problem, and I expect pressure because they don't have Ohio State doesn't have the greatest tackles. They just don't, and that's one thing that they haven't seen. Right? They haven't seen a defense the caliber of Notre Dame's. Let's just put it like that. Not even close, right? So that look, they there's things that they haven't seen too. This works both ways. Like we focus on Notre Dame and what they haven't seen and how they need to play. Ohio State hasn't seen a team like Notre Dame either, not even close to that. So it's something to monitor on that one. Bob Duato says reasons to believe: 1, Ben Morrison; 2, Joe Alt; 3, Holden Stays. Those are matchup wins, I think. Man, if Ben Morrison is a matchup win against Marvin Harrison, you got to feel real good about Notre Dame's chances. Joe Alt, absolutely. Holden Stays, good football player, right? I think they need Mitchell Evans back, though. He's very important to them. Able Gaming says not impressed with Cam Hart this year. It doesn't look very disciplined in his coverage. Let's check it out. Let's check out Cam Hart in coverage. I can look this up. As usual, it is my assumption that that he's a lot better in coverage than we think he is. All right, let's look here. Teams are 3 of 11 throwing at Cam Hart, which is 27%, which is terrible. It's terrible. 3 of 11 throwing at Cam Hart. They are 4 of 11 throwing at Ben Morrison. Ben Morrison has given up a touchdown. Cam Hart is not. Cam Hart gave up the 138-yard play. Cam Hart has 3 forced incompletions. Ben Morrison has 1. I do not think that he is a better corner than Ben Morrison, just to be clear. I'm being a little bit cheeky there. He's given up 1 play this year, the 38-yard diving catch against NC State. Beyond that, he's been, look, 3 of 11. Notre Dame starting corners are 7 of 22 this year on completions against. That will work. That will work 100% of the time. I think Cam Hart's biggest problem is that he just isn't physical hasn't been physical in the run game because of his shoulder. I think you have to take that into account. He has a bad shoulder. He has a bad wing. Vamos Irish is putting chicken. We're talking about chickens in the chat. For some reason, I don't know why that is. Maybe I don't want to know why that is. But we're talking about chickens in the chat. Cam Hart has a bad shoulder, and he doesn't want to bang around with that shoulder. And I understand. I totally get it, right? He wants to stay healthy. Like the reason he is around, he stayed for another year, is for Ohio State and USC and Clemson and a chance to go to the playoffs and have a special year. He doesn't need to be killing himself against Central Michigan. He just doesn't, right? And I understand that. But if you're going to be 7 of 22 against, he's 3 of 11, they're throwing at him, you'll take it 100% of the time. If that continues this year, it's one of the better corner seasons Notre Dame's ever had. So it's just something to keep in mind with him. Something to keep in mind. Andrew Weirdy. I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm just going to show Andrew W from now on. I'm sorry about that. What did you think of the game Parker called? Felt like maybe he was holding back a bit, which led to the choppy performance offensively. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if Notre Dame was working on things specific to Ohio State that they weren't going to run against Central Michigan. Again, not necessarily holding things back. It's just they're working on things specific to an opponent that they weren't going to bring out. You know, I'd have to go back and look. Like there were a few calls, like just on top of mind, that I was like, I don't know if I love that, but generally speaking, I thought he was fine. The way that they played, I thought he was fine. So don't really have a problem with the way he called the game. Vamos Irish says, how nice was the Toby Tobias touchdown? And it was rude for Jet to show him up with his gorgeous catch. No, not rude. I mean, look, complimentary. That's what we'll say. Complimentary to Notre Dame. It's good. You want that. You want the over-the-top throw to Tyree there. Great catch by him. Great throw by Hartman. Very good throw by Hartman. And the Toby play, like, look, it's just he's fast. He's fast, getting down the sideline, and they can hit him. So it's good stuff. Rajon says, how important is Mitchell Evans being available next Saturday? Extremely important. Extremely important. He is key to what they want to do. There is a reason that he plays the majority of the snaps. And so Notre Dame feels like he's important, and it's hard for them to get into their 12 personnel stuff if he's not going to be available. He's their best inline blocker. You see Holden stays on the touchdown run that gets called back by Estime's holding. It's not that and Mitchell Evans wouldn't hold in that position, but it's just like Mitchell Evans would be the one out there normally in that position. So he's extremely important. He's extremely important to them. Let's see. Should Anye play more? He was more productive than Mills yesterday. Let's check out how much he played yesterday. Let's check it. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Riley Mills, 38 total snaps. And where is Anye? 13 snaps. Fun fact, Jason Anye, Notre Dame's highest graded player. Jason Anye in 13 snaps, 3 tackles, one total pressure, 1 quarterback hurry, 3 stops, 3 tackles, 3 stops. Riley Mills, 1 pressure, 1 hurry, 5 tackles, in 38 snaps. So, to answer the question from Michael Kurinsky, the stats would back it up. He was more productive, and he probably should play more. So that's a good take by you, Michael. Good job by you. The stats back up your eye test. Very good job. Andrew says, I got the pronunciation right. Thank you. I gave several pronunciations, so I don't know which one is correct. I'm going to say Werty. Andrew Werty. That's what I'm going to say. Let's see. No, I'm not going to put that up here. That's bad juju. Yeah, so CFB Hurts referring to Mitchell Evans. He has the 7th highest snap count on offense behind the starting line at Hartman. Yeah, so the starting line basically plays every snap, and Hartman plays every snap, or just about, when the starters are in, and Mitchell Evans is behind those guys. So he's high on the snaps, total snaps. Very important player for Notre Dame. Very important player. Let's see. Robert Hallecky, thanks for being here, Robert. Appreciate it. I listened to another post-game pod. How dare you? No, you're always listening to ours. Take in whatever content you want. Whatever content you want. Whatever makes you happy. That's good stuff. I listened to another post-game pod, and they mentioned the lack of pressure in production was from Golden trying to show everyone how smart he is rather than scheme to his players. Thoughts? I don't like to. This is me. Okay. I don't like to say things like that because I don't know that's why he's doing something. I have no idea. I don't think I mean, every coach is quote unquote trying to show how smart they are. Like they're trying to create schemes in order that are successful, right? I mean, look, I don't, I just don't like. Look, some of the pressure stuff and sack stuff is kind of explained away by um playing NC State and not actively trying to get at the quarterback. Okay, I get that, like the sacks, but first of all, that plan worked, so I'm not going to bang him for that. I mean, trying to prove he's smarter than everybody. I don't. I don't have any evidence of that. I don't have any like if someone has a source that says that, then okay, that's fine. You can go with that. I don't like to say things like that. I don't know why that is. I mean, to me, it's like, look, if Riley Mills has played a bunch of snaps, Howard Cross has played a bunch of snaps. I don't think that the scheme that Al Golden is playing is preventing them from being disruptive in the run game. Just win. Just like win your matchup, you know? Like I don't think that Al Golden is the reason that the linebackers aren't creating a bunch of negative plays on defense in the run game, right? Like you can have tackles for loss on that one as well. Like I don't. I mean, look, if there are errors in the way that Al Golden is coaching, like over time that will show itself, and that's fine. But I do think there's just like they got to play better. They got to play better. Like Jordan Patelho's got to play better. Now, I'm not saying he's playing poorly, right? I was telling Jamie yesterday, he's having like a Dalen Hayes type season, you know, where Dalen was a solid player most of the time. Like in 2020, he was different, but like prior to that, like Dalen Hayes was a solid player. You put him out there, he'll do his job. He's not going to be crazy flashy, but he'll do his job. And I think that's what Jordan Patel is doing. He's not having a bad season by any means, right? But the plays do have to come eventually. You got to make plays, and you got to be a playmaker. I'm not gonna go banging the coaches for an entire group that needs to, because look, is Jason Onye, is the scheme hurting him? He goes in there and makes plays. Javante Jean Baptiste, he goes in there and makes plays. Is the scheme hurting him? Right? Like you have guys who are stepping up and being playmakers. Um, and so I don't want to blame scheme when it's like we have players. Notre Dame has players who are doing it, and they have players who just need to just make more plays out there. That's all it is. I mean, look, it's not like Riley Mills has been a Sheldon Day type. Like Notre Dame people expected a Sheldon Day type from him, but we've never seen that. Right? That's never been the case. Howard Cross has always been a disruptive player. Right? He's always been darting into the backfield. Can he make more disruptive plays? Yeah, probably. But I think he's been fairly disruptive. Um, but like, look, Nana playing fine, not knocking anyone's socks off. Josh Burnham, he's created plays when he's been in there. He hasn't been in many snaps, but he's created some pressure and some havoc, right? He got the unfortunate roughing penalty, which I thought was kind of cheap. Like the player kind of gets bumped into him and he runs into him like he's just pursuing, and he bumps into him and he gets banged for that. Like I didn't love that call, especially when Sam Hartman's getting tackled by his knees when he's rolling out. I don't love that, right? Don't love to see that. So yeah, I don't like to prognosticate on the motivations of coaches trying to show how smart they are. He wants to create the best scheme possible. He wants to create the best defense possible, right? I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that front. Evaluate what the defense does, and we'll go on from there. Like, is Marcus Freeman trying to show how smart he is by using these timeouts before the half all the time? Or is he just trying to put this team in the best situation to score a touchdown? Right. I don't like casting negative aspersions when I don't I have no basis to believe that that's the case. And that's me. Like if someone else has a reason to think that, has a reason to have that opinion, then that's fine, right? Like then they can say it, and they did say it, and they can own that, and that's no problem for me. I don't have a problem with that. Just like from my opinion, I don't see it, and so I don't say it. I don't see it, and I don't say it. But if you would like to see something from your you have a player who's a highlight tape, high school player, maybe a college player, and you want to see something from them, create a cinematic video, a photo, a highlight reel, or maybe you want to see your social media take a bump up in productivity, then you're going to want to check out VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Fahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify your growing business, VSR Media specializes in short and long form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574 800 9106. Thank you. Let's see. Andrew Huerty says, "What was up with Colsey yesterday? Reason to be concerned. I think you and Jamie, he didn't play. So he did play. He played 8 snaps. Probably at the very end, right? So I probably didn't notice him because I was setting up for the show at like 3 minutes left in the game. Um, so I I didn't notice him in the game, but prior to that, uh, concerning for him personally, just for sure, that's not good, right? Like you want to get in the game. So there's that. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I didn't really see anything from him. I mean, he didn't obviously do anything against NC State. I mean, let me check the NC State snap counts now that we're just sitting here. Because that could be interesting. That could be interesting. Let me just check. See, week 2, Notre Dame, NC State, offense, total snap counts. Okay, against NC State, he had 14 snaps, which is like more than Great House. They play different positions, 3 less than Flores. So he got about what he's been getting against NC State, and then didn't get into the end in this game. Maybe just didn't have a good week of practice. Maybe there's something going on there. It's something to monitor, though. Something to monitor. Because look, Notre Dame's 6 deep at wide receiver as it is. So you don't want to lose, and you don't want to have a guy who's like not playable and you have 5. Like that's not going to work. Now, granted, they play a lot of tight ends and that's good, but you want more than 5. Okay, Notre Dame needs to get out of this problem. They need to develop him. They need to get it going. Discipline the first 2 weeks. I think you did. So CFB Hurt says, "Did I see Heinisch out there on the first drive? Has he rocketed up the depth chart, or was I seeing things?" You did see him on the first drive, I believe. It's not so much that he rocketed up the depth chart. Gabe Rubio got hurt, and so he was behind him, and so it's his time to come in and play. So that's what I would say. Jamie was not. Jamie said, maybe not on the first drive, Hurts, but I think their second drive when they had the long one to score a touchdown. I think Jamie was saying he didn't love seeing as many backups as were in the game at that point, especially when they got in the red zone. But he was in there. I don't have a problem per se with the way that this like rotating the D line and everything. The only thing is it's like you put in Heinisch or anyone, no, whether it's him or anyone else. It's one thing. It's like, oh, I have some backup interior players, and the rest are starters. But like, there's, Bertrand's out already. DJ Brown's not really playing, not playing at all. And then you've got Heinisch out there, and you've got Anya out there, and you've got Snead out there, and you've got Antonio Carter out there, and you've got Christian Gray out there. Like, suddenly, man, these are a lot of backups in at once, and sure, like they should be able to play with Central Michigan, and they did for the most part. I mean, again, less than 300 yards of offense, but like, when you see some spotty stuff, it's like, just kind of look like, man, they got a lot of backups in. It's not an excuse; it's just a fact. A lot of guys. So that's something to keep in mind and something to track. So good job by you, Hertz, for noticing that. Coach Humph says, "Hey, Greg, do you or Jamie or anyone at Irish Sports Daily know if it is common for non-coaches with the football staff to monitor upcoming opponents' websites or YouTube channels in this case?" What do you mean by that? Like, monitor for what purpose? I know they would have analysts. Like, I bet you there is an analyst assigned specifically to Ohio State offense and an analyst assigned specifically to Ohio State defense. I know that's true. But in terms of monitoring, like a YouTube show similar to this one, ask me why you think that might be. Because I don't know what your angle is. Tell me why you might think that, and then we'll get back. Because I don't know why they would. I don't know why they would. Unless you were thinking like maybe they could pick up some trends or something. I don't know. Aaron Stack says, every game there will be one wide receiver who just doesn't get the ball. Was Thomas versus NC State. Yeah, but Thomas played a bunch of snaps, though. So it's one thing if like game flow dictates you don't get the ball. Like Tobias against Navy didn't really get the ball. And the same was true against Tennessee State. But that was a game flow thing. He was out there. Like the normal number of snaps he got. Deion Colsey didn't get in the game till the end when it was over and all the backups were in. So it's that's something to monitor. I mean, that's clearly a drop. If you're not playing when the game is still in doubt, that's a concern for him, and that's a concern for that room. And it's better that gets cleaned up than not. They don't have. It's not like they have a bunch of. It's not like they have a bunch of options there. They don't. So something to consider. Troll Sniper says, Golden is taking a lot of criticism when the defense has been pretty good overall. Definitely room for improvement, but seems like everyone's dogging him. I don't know why that would be, honestly. Like, he had a really good plan against NC State. I was very impressed with that. They had a good plan against Navy. Navy was, I don't like their coaches, man. Like, from a situational standpoint, their coaches got to be better. The way that Navy ended that game against Memphis, you're throwing the ball short of the sticks on 4th and whatever it was, 4th and 6 or something. Like, come on, man. You got to get the ball. You got to get the ball beyond the sticks. And it was after a timeout too. That's terrible. Can't have that. But Navy, 28-24 against Memphis, right? They hung with Memphis. It's not like, Navy isn't total trash, right? That's not the case. So I don't know. He had a good plan against Navy. He had a good plan against NC State. It's not like he needs to come up with a master class against Central Michigan backup quarterback. Like, I don't think that's true. Like, I think I didn't even think of it like, oh, Al Golden blew it in this game. I don't think that's correct. Let's see. John Cooper says, one thing is, as fans don't see, is that the right call was made, but the players didn't execute. So, okay. Every play, defense or offense. Defense, you can have plays where it's like, hey, that you were very unsound against this formation with this personnel, whatever. You can have that. But, I just don't. it's not like like there was one play, the seam, the seam route, which was kind of a big play for them before half. That was a tough call given what Central Michigan ran because they were in basically 3 cover and they ran 4 verts. And that's just hard to cover. Now, Antonio Carter needs to get off the hash. I'm going to draw up that play later and kind of show like there is a way for that play to be covered, and he needs to basically get away from the boundary and get more to the field because that's where the threat is. But I'll draw that up. But like stuff like that, even that, like there is a better way to play it, right? So I don't know. I don't think anyone should feel like super strong about Al Golden in a negative way. Certainly, I don't think that's fair. Um, um, yeah, Larry Brown says, why is this conversation being held about the defense? You can't expect the opposing offense to just lay down. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to speak negative about the defense in that way. It just came up. So, is what it is. I don't see them as a big problem. Do 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 do. CFB Hertz says MSU played Central Michigan and held them to fewer total yards and fewer yards per play. Our defense needs to be better than that. Yeah, that's true. I mean, look at personally, I think that if Central Michigan had played Emmanuel, Bert Emmanuel in this game, he would not have played as well as this quarterback. This quarterback made some good throws that Bert Emmanuel cannot make. He's a better runner for sure, but like that wasn't going to work in this game. Like that wasn't the problem. If this game was centered around, like if he had played, I'll bet you Notre Dame just crushes. And by the way, Notre Dame, that's who Notre Dame prepared for. They prepared for this quarterback. So, which isn't it like an excuse or anything? Like you handle the Central Michigan quarterback no matter who it is. And it's not like this Bauer kid was like the great shakes or anything. But there were some things that I'm sure they did that Notre Dame didn't expect them to do, which is it is what it is. Again, 17 points, 268 yards of offense with Ohio State looming. Just not. I'm just nonplussed by the whole thing. Fred Leskowski says backups need to play meaningful minutes. You need to know how they perform under real game pressure for sure. So here's the thing. They do need to play meaningful minutes. Absolutely. That's no problem. But when those minutes aren't as cohesive and sharp as the minutes you would get from the starters, like you need to understand that, right? So it can't be like I want the backups to play. Everyone wants more Jalen Sneed. Everyone wants that, right? But then when he plays and it doesn't look as good as when they have Bertrand and Kaiser in there, you got to understand. It's like that's why he is not a regular player. That's why. Like, look, let's go back. Let's check. Okay. Everyone. I don't want to say everyone. I'm overgeneralizing. I shouldn't do that. A lot of people say, we want Sneed. Get Marist out of there. Get Bertrand out of there. Get Kaiser out of there. Right? We want Sneed. 25 snaps in the game. Okay. 25 snaps. No tackles, which is, I think, harsh to him. I think he definitely did have a tackle on that first drive. He's hanging on to the ankle, but they've got him down for one missed tackle and no other tackles. No stats, basically, other than a missed tackle. Not productive. Okay. You get in the game, you're playing the will, you're not making tackles. It's no good, right? Like you see production from other guys with the same amount of snaps. Okay. Get in there and make plays. Get in there and make plays. we want these guys to play, and that's great. But then they're not producing. So it's like you got to understand that. You want these guys, you want them in the game, then they get in the game, they don't produce. That's what it is, right? You have to understand, like, there's going to be growing pains if you're playing a bunch of backups. That's all the whole point is you can't have it both ways. You can't say the defense was bad and they were sloppy and we didn't like the tackling, but then also say, but we need to play the backups more. We need to get backups in the game. Backups from the game, and it didn't look as good. So there's a correlation there. CFB Hurt says, what are your thoughts on our tackling? Usually bad tackling stems from non-physical fall camp to prevent injuries, but we heard all about how physical competitive fall camp was this year. It's a good point. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The way you become a good tackling team is you practice it all the time, and they have, right? So I don't know. I think let's see if it becomes a problem against a real team. I wasn't complaining about tackling against NC State, and that was the only real team they've actually played. Navy's kind of a weird opponent. I thought they tackled fine against Navy. And then Tennessee State, they didn't tackle very well. And Central Michigan didn't tackle very well. So maybe there's a correlation there, right? If they're not clued in, they're not jacked up for the game as they would be for others, then maybe that's the problem, just an intensity problem. Jalen Sneed got just destroyed on a goal line. Yeah, he did. He did, right? Tough rep. It's a tough rep for him, And look, when you're getting extensive playing time, maybe for the first time at the will linebacker position and not being used to rush the passer, you're gonna have tough reps. That's just how it is. Jamie talks about it all the time. JOK, Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah was not the same guy he wasn't even playing at this point. He was hurt, not playing. He came in 2019 and made mistakes, right? But that was his third year in the program, right? Jalen Sneed's been around for 2 years. Like, we do need to be patient with him, right? He obviously has the physical tools. Didn't have a defined position in high school, right? Which isn't a negative on anything. It's just a fact, right? It's going to take him a little time. He'll be fine. I think he'll be fine, okay? Notre Dame's got good Marcus Freeman's a good linebacker coach. Al Golden's a good linebacker coach. And Max Bullett's a good linebacker coach. It'll be fine, right? Bad rep, but that's okay. People have bad reps. Pops McGee is here. His breath stinks, apparently. Whoa, where is it? Here we go. Pops just woke up. My breath stink, but I'm here. Thank you, Pops. Go brush your teeth, though. It's fine. Let's see. Coach Hump says, I have a point to make for what I would expect to see from Notre Dame versus OSU based on what I saw in the NC State game, as well as the 2002. Oh, I see. Coach, you could just make it. So basically, Coach Hump is saying, does he think that Ohio State would pick up on something that he saw? I think you could just say it. I think Ohio State knows everything. They know all things. They know everything about their tendencies and all those stuff. You could just say it in the chat. It's fine. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be using it against the football team. I'll tell you what, if Ohio State's coaches are listening to this show, then God bless it. God bless them. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Jalen Sneed missed on a blitz in the hole, completely whiffed on a tackle. Yeah, so look, again, growing pains. You want him in the game, then you got to live with the mistakes. That's just it. And I don't have a problem living with mistakes. I don't. It's the nature of it's the nature of playing young players. They're going to make errors, and there's going to be mistakes, and you just got to live with it. Not just on offense, but on not just on defense, but on offense as well, right? So look, I think as we kind of wrap up the show, like I just think everything that we saw from Notre Dame is like it's all leading to this point, right? The first 4 games we talked about it in the preseason. Like we are leading to the Ohio State game. The game sets up the schedule sets up nice for a nice run up to Ohio State. So how about we pay it off, right? How about Notre Dame goes out there and pays it off? The way the schedule's set up, the way that they were able to prepare, the way that they were able to set up the season, go pay it off then. Go make it happen. It's a huge game. You're at home. Who's going to be the playmakers? Are they going to be the playmakers or are you going to be the playmakers? Notre Dame needs this game. Ohio State does not think they are going to lose this game. They have no reason to believe that they will lose. They have not lost to Notre Dame in recent memory for any of these players. They've played them 5 times since 1995, and Ohio State's won by double digits every single time. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, they've been gearing towards this. I want to see a great performance. Maybe you win, maybe you lose. I want to see a great performance. And in like the stuff with the tackling, the stuff with the penalties needs to go away. Stop it with the penalties. Okay. Larry Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not overrated. I promise you that. I promise you that. He is not. I've seen him. I've watched him a lot. He is remarkable. He is a remarkable player. He can catch the ball. And Quest for Greatness says, how excited are you to watch Ben Morrison versus Marvin Harrison Jr.? I mean, it's a huge matchup. It's a huge matchup for Ben Morrison. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s done it against really good teams, and hopefully he doesn't do it again. But really good football player. CFB Hurts. I wonder about if there is going to be a lot of red in the stadium. It just seems like, the fact that they sold out this last week was heartening, right? The fact that there was a really nice crowd for Tennessee State was heartening. I feel like there's a little bit of a kind of a there's a vibe to this team. There's a vibe to it. And I think the fans do it as well. No problem, Larry Brown. No problem. If you think he's overrated, I'm just telling you my thoughts. I don't think he is at all. I think he's an excellent football player, and we'll see what Ben Morrison has for him. But look, it's a big game. Go Notre Dame. This is your chance. This is the time, right? Go win the game. Okay. You got Sam Hartman. You've got an experienced defense. They're down. I don't want to say down at quarterback, but they don't have CJ Stroud right now. He's not playing at the CJ Stroud level. Maybe Kyle McCord will be a great quarterback, but he doesn't need to be a great quarterback next week. Okay. So we're going to have a lot to talk about that. We're going to have a lot to talk about on Irish Sports Daily, Hit and Hustle. I'm going to be breaking down some plays. I'm going to try to come out with something on YouTube. I don't want to say it because there's like a time issue that I have to deal with. What I'm thinking about is taking a lot of time, but I would say that if I can break down basically Notre Dame's whole offense against Central Michigan and the whole defense against Central Michigan, I'm going to put it on YouTube, but it won't be just from a copyright standpoint. We can't do it. They'll take it down. So if we put it out for the public, so what we might do is we might make a YouTube video available for Irish Sports Daily members only. Just again, I'd have no problem releasing it to the public, but there's copyright issues involved that they'll just take it away from us. So you're going to want to subscribe to Irish Sports Daily if you haven't already, because that's going to be coming out. Jamie and I will have our show on Tuesday. We'll have a show on Thursday, and we're doing a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff in prep for Ohio State because this is one of the biggest weeks of the year. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know we're going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. Have a great Sunday, everyone, and we will talk to you very soon. Keep hitting, and keep hustling. Talk soon, guys.